All right. I am. Just got done with our game tonight. We ended just a little bit early because it was a totally crazy and unexpected evening. Our OFC game didn't happen, mainly because we were missing some players and we didn't really want to continue on with the adventure missing half of the group. So what we did is we just whipped up some. I'm eating some pecans. We whipped up some Twilight 2000 version 2.2 characters and gave that a go, and it was a blast. I mean, it was a little weird at first, getting used to the rule set, but character generation is incredibly easy. I mean, you roll your attributes and then you pick whatever you're going to do. And the group, they all chose to be army, so that made it really easy on me because I didn't have to come up with any kind of weird reasoning behind why all these guys are hanging out together or anything like that. They all chose to be American. So again, super easy. And in case you're wondering what I'm doing, by the way, I'm using this Tamio weathering powder. And it's probably too subtle to see with my crappy camera, but I am going over the tires and the lower part of the chassis of this thing with the mud weathering powder, just to make it, make it just a bit dirtier looking, a little more realistic. I mean, when I paint 40K stuff, I don't care about realism at all, but when I'm painting World War II or historic, I tend to go a little bit more all out. So what this is a German 8-rad heavy scout car in winter camo. I really like these things, and that doesn't mean they're actually necessarily good in any game in particular, but they're just such a neat looking vehicle. Just an interesting concept, The fact that some engineers got together and this is what they came up with. So he was painted brown. He was primered black and then dry brushed up through German gray and neutral gray. And when that was done, I used the sponge technique, and dappled on some very thin white paint. And what I actually used was the Vallejo Air Brush white paint. I like to use the airbrush paint quite a bit, even when I'm using a brush. It's thinner and it's good for what I was doing with this. So, all right, let's grab some of that. All right. So yeah, this is and of course this is an SDKF blah 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 whatever in German vehicle, but commonly called the 8-rad. Super interesting vehicle. It had a driver's position on both the front and the back, so you could scoot out of a bad situation quick. But there he is in winter camo. The next one, this is a Panzer III J. also in winter camo. So this started out black, then it went German gray, which is a very dark gray, then highlighted in neutral gray, and then sponged. Ooh, watch me break it. And then sponged in thin white paint. And then, of course, I went back and kind of neatened up some of the details, and there you go. I mean, ready for the table, ready to fight alongside my winter grenadiers. And right now, I'm again just gonna muddy up the road wheels and everything, and give them that, you know, need to stop saying every 5 seconds. But just make it look a little gritty, a little dirty. I mean, on the table, right now, the thing would look fine. I do intend to add some numbers to it, maybe, to mark platoon and company, organization. But otherwise, this guy's pretty much done. And I'm just throwing some mud on him and then when this is on, I'll go ahead and use a matte sealer and seal it up nice and good so that I can play with it. Because like I was saying in the other video, I think some people forget that these are toys. I know some, might be like, well, they're models, blah, blah, blah. They're toys, And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that, We play a game and we use very intricate and expensive toys in our game. And that's just fine, So now if I want to get a little bit, I could actually go back here and put a little rust on him. I've got the rust powder too, but I'm going to leave that where it is right this second. Now, the other thing I've been working on today, this is my badass KV1 Russian heavy tank. Painted up in that Russian green. It's the dark Russian green. There's a much lighter green that they sometimes used as well. And some KVs, especially early war KVs, were actually painted like an earth tone brown. Here's the other turret. I haven't painted this yet, but if I slap this thing on, it becomes a KV2. The only thing, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm mistaken, then I apologize in advance, but I didn't see a longer barreled 85 millimeter option, but it absolutely could have been there, and I just didn't see it. Because, a lot of mid-war and late war, the KVs that they did keep in service, they upgraded to KV-85s. And all that entailed was replacing the 76 millimeter Russian gun with a 85 millimeter gun, which was a lot more effective against big cats. So, a really good upgrade, but by the time you get to the late war, a lot of the KVs they'd started replacing them with IS, the IS-1s, IS-2s. Which, were pretty good tanks. they had massive guns on them and all that sort of thing. So definitely tiger killers. Of course, they could be killed by a tiger right back. So you won't, again, you probably won't be able to see this because I need to get better lighting. But he's all dusty now. Got some mud in those road wheels. Looks like this guy's been battling across the Russian steppes. So that being done, we'll stick that in there and put it over here with our other. I accidentally bought 2 of the C's because there's A, B, C. So I have 2 of the rust and the metallics. So you've got orange rust, gunmetal, and silver. But I'm not too concerned with that because I've got a ton of Necromunda terrain to paint. And I think this orange rust is going to it's going to be pretty boss. It's going to do just the trick to make that stuff look better. Now the other thing this is still work in progress, is this this is a Martyr 3H, and basically it's a Panzer 38. Well, it's not basically, it is a Panzer 38 with either a Russian 76 millimeter gun that was captured and rebored, or a PaK-40 mounted on it. Light armored, open topped. Definitely, you're not going to run. I mean, this is not a tank, right? It's a anti-tank gun that's mobile. But in bolt action or chain of command, this is a inexpensive option for dealing with your opponent's heavy armor. If you keep this thing alive long enough to get a couple shots off, the main gun on this thing is fully and easily capable of destroying most armor on the table, regardless of faction. So whether you're playing against other Germans, Americans, whatever it is, be it a Sherman or a Tiger, this guy has a pretty good chance of being able to take them out. And they're relatively inexpensive to field in an army. Again, he is in the winter camo so that he will go with my winter grenadiers that I'm working on. Which are specifically for, I'm thinking like a Stalingrad campaign. I've said this a million times before, but the Battle of Stalingrad has always fascinated me, So I've already got the Russians made. So now it's just a matter of getting the Germans. Now, something I did build today, and it needs to go to the garage, to the paint booth for its primer. And this guy will be primered black, and then it'll be dry brushed up through the grays. And after that, it's going to go winter camo. This is an Opal Blitz, but it's actually called a Malter, or Maltier, however you say it. And these guys were used for troop transports. The Malter versions were used a lot in the Eastern Front because of how terrible the mud and everything was in Russia. So, and I've decided, I haven't glued it on, but you've got this cool, covering here. And if I wanted to, I could very easily go ahead and, first off, this is going to get winterized. but I could make this into either a very cheap troop transport option, or it could be a ambulance for a medic team. This could be used as an ambulance. Um, if I wanted to, I could drop a AA gun in there, and this would be a mobile artillery, like a Burbling or geez, what's the other one they would use? So this could easily, maybe not this one. Now this small kit I think was like $20. Uh, is a blast to put together. And I have two because I generally buy things in lots of two or three, and I may get more of those. So I have my other one right here. See, that one I went specifically wanting to do the canvas top. You can do it without the canvas top. And the other thing is the sides, if I remember correctly, the mobile anti-aircraft version of the Malter, when it set up the gun, which I think was a 20 millimeter automatic cannon, the sides actually would fold down, the back and the two sides, so it would almost be like a platform. And then you could set this thing up. So all I would really have to do if I want to convert this over to one of those things is buy the anti-aircraft thing from Bolt Action, which they do sell. And then I could field that. Or I might just build this as a Opel Blitz truck and again have another cheap my mind just said, woo, another cheap transport option. A lot of people have this misconception that the German Heer or the Panzer Grenadiers or whatever were all like cruising around in half tracks. But the fact of the matter is, the Germans never produced enough half tracks to meet demand, ever. So only the more elite elements within the German army were issued half tracks. Most of the motorized and Panzer Grenadier, well, when they reclassified the Heer into Panzer Grenadiers, most of them were carried around by truck. And that's just what it was. So, again, Hollywood. It's like most people are of the perception that German uniforms were gray. And when you watch a lot of movies, you either see, especially older movies, you see gray uniforms or black uniforms, and of course, black being the SS. But the reality is, your German Heer or Landswehr, your infantry that were not SS or anything like that, they actually wore green, like a field. They called it field gray, field grau, but it's actually green. And I don't know if this is going to show through on the computer very well. This is part of my work in progress. Stalingrad soldiers, and you can tell because they've got the heavy winter boots, and they're wearing the long coats. They've got the gloves on. Now the helmet. This guy's got a cloth cover on his helmet, so it'll just be painted white. But the ones that don't have the cloth cover, you paint the normal color it would be, which is a dark gray, and then use a bit of a sponge and dapple white on. And that gives the effect of the white paint chipping off of it. It makes it look much more realistic. So, that's basically it. I've got about 60 of these guys to paint, and I kind of work on them when I get like burned out on painting my Space Marines. I break them out. What else do I got here? Well, I couldn't resist. So there's another 30 Germans in winter. What this will allow me to do is, I mean, my winter army is done. It's done. Every figure I need is done. It's all WYSIWYG. It's all good. But this will allow me to make some options if I want. So let's say I want to field Panzer Grenadiers in winter coats. This is going to allow me to do that when I get to it. And then, of course, I still need to build this guy. I mean, the box is falling apart too, but still need to build my Caro Armato. I will not be building this as a Cinevanti 75. It's going to be I think a Caro Armato 1441. Which, granted, is the Italians classified this as a medium tank, but it's a light tank compared to every other army except maybe the Japanese. So now, in more interesting news for some people, here is a finished Reaver in my new chapter. Okay, I say finished, but it's not finished. I haven't put the decal on the right shoulder. But this is the finished Reaver for my chapter, which I'm still trying to figure out. And there's the shoulder pad. That is a decal I got from the Macedonian Successor State box set by Warlord Games. And of course, I got a couple hundred of these. Those box sets, of course, one of them is not even open. The other one I opened and kind of looked at and put nothing together. So, but I looked at that and I thought that would look cool. And on top of that, I was like, what is a color that goes really good with purple besides gold? And that ended up being white. White looks good with purple, in my opinion. I love that contrast. So I decided my Reavers will have white helmets. One reason is just so I can be like in this chapter, in my chapter, Reavers paint their helmets white, right? But the other reason is because they have that skull-looking face. It just kind of looks cool, you know, to have that white. I guess I could have did just the face white and the helmet another color, but that'd been too much pain in the ass. And my whole objective recently has been to simplify painting so that I can increase output, not to actually make things more complicated than they need to be. So, and here is this is one of the exterminators or whatever from the new set. There's this thing. It's still glossy because I put a gloss coat. When I use transfers, I put a gloss coat down, let it completely dry, put the transfer on, and then put another gloss coat on it. It seals it in really good, and so it'll be well protected. These guys, I'm leaving their helmets as is. They have a white right shoulder pad, and as soon as I figure out what the correct symbol for my chapter is going to be to go there, it'll go there. I think I mean, these guys are heavy support, so whatever the heavy support shoulder pad is. And so I've got those squads are done. I've got almost completely finished my first 10-man squad of Mordians. And I've showed those off, so that's cool. I'm work in process or progress. This is a Tempestus Scion, but I'm painting him up in the same blue, white, red, or red, white, and blue as my Mordians. Just because I want the army to match. And that's basically it. That's my hobbying for today. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video. And, I was talking about Twilight 2000. It was a little slow at first, learning a new rule set and everything. But once I got used to the task system and we figured out how damage worked, it's actually really simple, you know, because it's you roll a die 20 and you compare it to your attribute plus skill. So it's really simple. Weapons, you roll to see where they hit, and then you roll a number of dice of damage based on the damage value of the weapon. And that's it. That's really all there is to it. So it's a very simple game. What happened is the guys, I kind of modified this starting scenario. The guys that showed up, they all made their characters. They were in a Humvee doing a scout mission for their cantonment. And while they were gone, the cantonment got overran by a hodgepodge of Soviet forces. They managed to make it back in time to see what was going on. And they found their officer hiding. He was very badly wounded. They saved him. They pulled him out, jumped in the Humvee, and they headed north away from the cantonment towards the main east-west highway leading from the border towards Warsaw. And the commander, Lieutenant Colonel Lansing, died, you know, in the back of the car, but the Humvee. But before he died, he told them, "Hey, I'm sorry, boys, to tell you this. We received a message from high command, and they just wanted to say you're on your own." And then he died, and they drove through the night, and they made it to the outskirts of Warsaw, which is think The Walking Dead, but without zombies. And Warsaw, I believe, caught like a very small yield nuke during one of the opening exchanges. So the center of the city is radioactive, and in this game you keep track of rads because if your rad count hits a certain level, then you just start getting sick and sick and sick until you hit a threshold and you die. They managed to scout around and found an old garage to hide their Humvee in, and they stowed the dead body of the Lieutenant Colonel, planning to bury it, but in the night, a pack of feral dogs showed up, and basically they ate the body of the Lieutenant Colonel and tried to break into the rest of the garage. There's about 12 of them, rather large and somewhat irradiated and patchy-furred monsters, and the group managed to hide out in the garage through the night, and in the morning they hopped in the Humvee and yanked open the garage door and got the hell out of Dodge. So now they're heading north along the exchange or the highway, planning to circle Warsaw and maybe head towards Copenhagen. Their plan is to get away from Poland and make their way to Denmark. That's their hope. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen. There's no guarantee that we will even play this game again. But like I said, I had the rules, and I've been looking at the book, and we weren't going to play D&D, so we did play a couple of games of Carcassonne, which is an amazing board game. My family loves it. My wife and everybody, we all love that game. And then after we played a couple games of that, I was just like, screw it, bust out some dice. They're like, well, what are we going to play? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. We're going to make characters, and then we're going to play. And they figured it out halfway through when I was like, okay, what do you want your career to be? At first, they're like, is this Traveler? Because the character generation is very similar. And like, no, Twilight 2000. So we had a really good time. And this is at the 30-minute mark, so I'm going to cut it here. Of course, the option was brought up. We could play Twilight 1943, maybe make a bunch of Soviet soldiers or German soldiers, and play through the siege of Stalingrad, but using the Twilight 2000 rules. That might be really cool, you know. I will say this. combat in Twilight 2000 is deadly and unforgiving. So if that sounds like a lot of fun for you, this it could be the thing. And you can get the PDF on Drive Through RPG. You can get the print book on Drive Through RPG. This is one of those times where I don't believe you could actually get this thing from a brick and mortar store because it's a game that hasn't been in print for 30 years at this point. But it is a lot of fun. If you like military movies, Black Hawk Down, or any of the Navy SEAL movies, or anything like that, this could really be right up your alley. You could have a really good time. Hell, if you like dystopian movies like Mad Max, this could be your rule set. And I'll say this, even though I love TSR and Dungeons and Dragons and all of that, I think to be a well-rounded gamer and dungeon master or GM, whatever you want to call yourself, it is important to try other games and not just D&D clones in other settings, but actual other games using different rules and all of that. And this is a good one, in my opinion. With that said, you know the deal. Peace and love. Love y'all. Stay strong. God bless America.